Welcome to the Daring CEO Co-op podcast, where we celebrate entrepreneurs who dare to build a business on their own terms. I'm your host, Denise Klein, and each episode, we're going to dive into stories, talents, and passions of those who are redefining success and making their mark by sharing their gifts with the world. Join us for inspiration, real talk, and actionable insights as we embrace the power of daring to do business your way. All right, it is time for the Daring CEO podcast, and I have to say, I know that I could be doing a million other things, but I love this part so much. I love connecting with new people and sharing my new people with my little growing audience that we're trying of entrepreneurs that we're all daring to be a CEO in our business. So today's guest is a special one because she does something that's a little more interesting, I think, than some of the.
Why, thank you.
So we know what a business coach is. We know a business strategist, but Denise, this is Denise Perkins, by the way.
Hello.
She is a business productivity coach. So we're going to get into what that means. I've got lots of questions for her around that. But we're going to start where we always start. It is, you have to be daring if you're going to start a business of your own, and you have done that. So we want to hear your story. How did you become our Denise Perkins that we have here today?
Oh my goodness. It's a journey, right? So I started many, many moons ago, after graduating from college, also high school, but then college, in communications. And I always wanted to be, working in sports and radio. And so I got to do all that kind of stuff. I worked in, for a great company and transitioned to a great company where I was, working for, doing events and mobile marketing tours and things like that. And when I was laid off, doesn't it always start that way? I don't know.
Yeah.
And when I was laid off, I decided that, well, shoot, I could do this, right? And I was in my late 20s, and I'll never forget my mom saying to me, she was like, "But what will you do for insurance?" I'm like, really? That's what you're worried about? I'll get insurance. I'll be fine. Anyway, so that was my first iteration. I had a marketing and events company, and pretty much I've never been able to look back since. I mean, I went back into corporate a couple times, and then I've always kind of escaped and went back and did my own thing. So I had that marketing and event company for a while, and I went and had a couple jobs, like I said, like in sales and that kind of thing. And then my love of marketing oddly brought me to real estate, because I felt like I was the ultimate marketing, and I get to have my own business, right? Like, so, and who doesn't like looking at houses? So it felt like a good fit for me. And so I did that for 12 years. And then fast forward 12 years, I decided that I loved the mentoring part of what I was doing in real estate, right? Like I was a part of my brokerage. I was helping to teach classes. I was part of a really great program, called Ninja Selling. And it was what had helped grow my business. And so I transitioned over to coaching. And I was a realtor and a coach for a while. And then really realized that, like anything, if you're going to, do it, you got to go all in. So I, as scary as it was, turned off my real estate license and went all in coaching. But as I was coaching realtors, what I was recognizing is, as I was meeting other amazing female business owners and entrepreneurs, that there was this kind of like need and this lack of feeling productive in their days. Like I'm overwhelmed. I'm always distracted. I don't know how to do XYZ. I don't know how to take it to the next level. I don't know, and I was coaching my realtors on the strategies basically to do that, to grow their business.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, gosh, as I'm growing my business, because I was doing kind of the same thing, right? And I was using my strategies that I had developed in my real estate business. I was using those strategies to grow my coaching business. I'm like, oh wow, interesting. So
They go
here we
together.
are.
Yeah.
Adopting my productivity systems and strategies that I have for myself and my real estate clients, adapting them for my female business owner entrepreneur clients.
I
So
one of the reasons I love hearing people's stories is you can see how that thread starts happening.
mhm.
You pick up the marketing piece and you pick up this, and it just ends up you're solving your own problems, and then you turn around and helping
Yeah.
others solve those same problems, and you know them from the inside, right?
Yes.
So, and to be able to
Walking
present
the
them
walk. Hmm.
exactly, and mine it's very
Right.
similar, very similar.
Right.
I love that you are taking those things and have you transitioned from the doer, right, into that
Hmm.
coaching um, role. The clients that you're serving now, are you still serving real estate agents as well as other
Hmm.
female? Because I mean, when you're a real
Yes.
estate agent, I know you're a brokerage and
Yeah.
you're
Yeah. Yeah.
still work for yourself when you're a real estate
Yeah.
agent.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So I still help Ninja Selling, which is the company.
mhm,
I'm still a certified ninja coach. So I do still have a few ninja clients that I still
mhm.
coach, which is because I love it. Like it's, I mean, ninja selling was the thing that changed my life as far
Yeah.
as building and growing my business. And it's still that one like little thing I still get in real estate, like, because I
Mhm.
still, know what's going on in the markets, and I coach realtors all over the country. So it's just fascinating.
Yeah.
Um, and I love helping people grow their business, no matter what business it is. And so I just, I've kept a few of those clients for sure.
That's awesome. So I know that from my cyber stalking, and for those of you that are new to our Daring Peak, this is actually the first time I'm meeting Denise. So usually the guests I have on, I've done some work with them or whatever, and this is the first time, and we have so much in common. So I knew it was going to
Yeah.
be a great interview. So now that you do coaching, but you are a business productivity coach, not just a
Yeah.
business coach. Can you talk about
Yes,
the distinction?
absolutely. So I feel like business coach is very vanilla, right? I mean, and this is the idea of niching and being really specific and clear to myself on what I can do and how I can show up and serve my clients, right? That's that first piece.
Hmm.
And then the systems that I have, I was, because at first I was really vanilla. I mean, let me tell you, I mean, I can tell you the journey of where I started as the coach. So that's a whole nother story.
Hmm.
Because at first I was going to coach moms to help them start their business. That
Yeah.
was pushing a boulder up a hill, let me tell you. So
Mhm,
anyway, I've this coaching journey has morphed into, because like I said, like I was discovering that what I was doing to grow my coaching business were the strategies. So that productivity thing was like I had all of these tools, and my friends and colleagues were like, could you show me how you're doing that? And I'm like, oh yeah, right. I mean, that's usually how it is. It's like, wait,
mhm.
what are you doing? Like, how is this working for you?
Yeah.
Um, so I've got a productivity funnel system,
Mhm,
and I've developed six pillars of business mastery that I have discovered. Like when I've got these things in place,
mhm,
I can show up every day, and the activities that I'm doing are impacting my business. So I call it
mhm.
mindful productivity,
Love
because when we are thoughtful about what we're doing, and we've got the six pillars of business mastery, which are mindset, purpose, vision, clarity, strategy, and support. When we
mhm,
have all of those things, it
mhm,
makes it so much easier for us to be mindful in what we're doing on a daily basis. So we can show up on Monday morning and know
mhm,
what I'm going to do today, versus just being like, oh my God, I feel so busy. I feel so overwhelmed. I'm constantly distracted by all of the things.
mhm,
So, I've just created this. So that's where the productivity part comes in. I mean, there's all kinds of different amazing tools and different
mhm,
strategies and all those things, but they have to work for you. So I'm not teaching you one thing to do that's
mhm,
specific, to how I do it. I just have some systems in place that you can then choose what works for you. We all learn differently.
Yes.
We all have different strengths. We all have, it's like, how do I delegate? How do I, let go of so many things? So that starts with that whole mindset thing, right? Like I have a class that I teach called Productivity Boot Camp. And it's what's fascinating is just one of the very first things we talk about is what's your mindset around productivity? And everyone has a different story.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that word can be triggering or it can be like exciting. So
And it is interesting because, and I don't know about your clients, but for most of my clients are on the small side, right? There's usually a
yeah.
solo
Yep.
entrepreneur,
Yep.
right? Or an entrepreneur with a small team. And I think as women, a lot of times we tend to like, I'm just going to take care of it. If I don't do it, nobody's going to do it. Nobody's going to do it as well as I do it. And we have a lot of those kind of self-imposed, I don't know, limitations. I mean, that really
Yeah.
falls into
It
mindset
does.
about
It
how it,
totally becomes a limitation.
yeah. And it's funny, one of the things, I'm very into mindset. And one of the things that occurred to me this year, I have always been a doer, right? I get a lot of stuff done. I've always been a great employee,
Mm-hmm.
first in, last out, all of those things. And my identity is so caught up in the doing
Mm.
that even though I teach about delegating, doing is much more comfortable. So I
It's
end up
satisfying. It gives you that
like, I
dopamine
don't
hit,
know.
right? Like
Yeah. Mhm.
check.
Yeah. So on a day where I'm like, I'm not entirely sure what needs to be done because everything needs to be done, like just doing it's just easier than going through the delegation process. So yeah, that mindset piece of it
Yeah.
is huge when it comes to the productivity. Now, so you listed off a bunch of those different things. Vision was one of those. Can you tell me
Yeah.
a little bit about what you mean by vision?
Yeah. Because our vision is our roadmap.
Hmm.
So we have to be super crystal clear about what our vision is for our business, where
Hmm.
we want to be a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. And when we
Hmm.
have that vision, it allows us to then break it down. This is my productivity funnel, right?
Hmm.
So if without a roadmap, without an idea of what I
Right.
want to do, even 90 days from now,
Hmm.
it's really super, super hard to be productive because I'm like, I'm just going to do all the things on my list. But are those things on your list actually going to get you
Get
to
you.
get you where you need to go? Or are you just like doing them because you think you need to do them or someone told you you should do them?
Yeah, I think there's something that happened to me, and it was probably my second year of business when I really kind of sat down and said, okay, I actually had read the E-Myth Revisited, which is one of my
Mm-hmm.
favorite
It's a great book.
books. And that's one of those books where, I mean, I've always been a planner. So I was like, okay, I kind of have an idea. But I think that was the first time I was like, the difference between do I want to be self-employed or do I want a business that can
Yeah.
run without me? And
Yeah.
like that's even a little bit of distinction. And not that there's a right or a wrong, but I was like, oh, I really do. I want to build a business that can run without me. So I can take vacation. So
Yeah.
I could build another business at some point if I want to. Now that's down the road, but without that vision,
Uh-huh.
yeah, how do you plan everything? And I
Yeah.
think for a lot of us that get into being an entrepreneur, it's all consuming. There's a million things to do. It's overwhelming. Social media, anybody?
Mhm.
I mean, just
Yeah.
all the stuff
Right.
in that. And
Totally.
to think about, okay, a lot of times we just look at what's in front of us. So
Mhm.
I love that you help people find some clarity about that vision and where they're going. It's so important.
It's I mean, in my mind, it is
Mhm.
crucial. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. So
What is that? Begin with the end in mind. Isn't that a
yeah.
Stephen
Yep.
Covey,
Yeah.
thing?
Well, and
So
we do, I call it reverse engineering, right? We're
yeah,
reverse engineering
exactly.
it. So, right, like, okay, what's that? Now let's go back. And I mean, you can't drive someplace without knowing what stops along the way you're going to be making
Exactly.
but you know where you're going.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there
And
you go.
along the way, you can pivot and
Yep.
adjust
You can
as,
pivot and adjust.
oh,
Absolutely.
and that is all about business. I'm just saying there's lots of pivot, lots of adjusting,
Every day.
every single day. One of the reasons I called it, I think I mentioned, I call it the Daring CEO podcast because we have to be daring to do anything like this that we're doing. And just for anybody that's new here, being an entrepreneur, uncomfortable. It just
Oh,
is. You
yeah.
have to be willing to get out of your comfort
Comfort
zone.
zone.
And that can be really challenging. But when you have support, right, and you have
Hmm.
somebody like Denise piece that can support you through it. It does make it easier to handle those challenges and that pivoting. I'm
Yes.
sure that your boot camps and your coaching, you see
Hmm.
probably have to see a lot of that. Those people that are struggling with, there's this thing I want to do, but I'm
Yeah.
also nervous about doing it.
Yeah.
So it's sometimes that productivity is affected just by our mental state alone.
Yes. Yes. Where we're at in the journey too, right? Like, well,
Mhm.
I want this and yet am I ready for it? Or how do I overcome, what's in my own way? And a lot of times it's just ourselves.
I hear that on every single episode I've done. And here's the thing is, I think that's such an important thing for us to know, that we think there are all these things, external things stopping us.
Mm-hmm.
Really, it's we're stopping ourselves. And
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, there is stuff on my list of things I want to do that I am stopping myself from doing. I have overcome a lot of stuff, faced a lot of fears to get here, but at
Yeah.
that just keeps happening. And that's
I
it's
know.
such an
Yeah.
interesting journey.
It is. It's this. Well, and I often talk about how being an entrepreneur is like the biggest, like, glaring in the mirror at all of your deficiencies and all the
Mhm.
things like you don't like about yourself, or all those limiting, all those things you heard when you were in elementary
Mhm.
school. Like, I mean, you're like we are like, that's why we're so amazing, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so daring, is
Yeah.
because we're like putting like ourselves out there so much every single day for our passion, because of
Well, and
something that we love and that we want to do.
it's fascinating to me because it's so different. And I think why what you're doing is so impactful and so important, because when it used to be, if you wanted to start business, and we can even talk about real estate, right? I was in real
Yeah.
estate more for a million years. And, I showed up at my office and we had a receptionist and we had an office manager and, we had all these people. Well, new businesses aren't like that.
No.
We have this room, we have this camera, we have the people on
Yeah.
the other side a
I
lot of
love
time.
it.
And instead of having, a whole team of employees, we have a bookkeeper, we have a social media manager, and we have a coach, and so we start building this
Building it.
support system. And it's fascinating because that's how these modern online businesses are now, and reaching out and connecting and finding, you really are creating your own support
Yeah.
network. And every
Right.
single business is so different.
Yeah.
Like, I do technology and I know a dozen people that do exactly what I do. They white label a version of high level and they're giving service of some kind, but all of our businesses are very different.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's just the way it is. Every single business is different because the people are different. So
Right.
when you have clients that are coming to you,
Mm-hmm.
I love what you said, you're showing them tools and things, but they get to choose what
Mm-hmm.
works for them. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, so it kind of goes back to, you were just talking about, like, we're all different. We're all unique. We all have a different value proposition. We all show up differently. We're all authentically our own selves. And part of that pillars structure that I was talking about in that framework and foundation is our purpose, right? So
Mhm.
that's how you distinguish who you are and and so it's super important that that's that second piece that we identify and we know. um and there's things that you can that's really important that you need to be doing and talking yourself through if you want to run your business like a business. And
Mhm.
so, to answer your question of, like, what was the question? No,
Well,
wait.
because just tying it back, I know I said a lot of
Yes.
words,
No, no, no,
but
it's fine. And I'm like, hey, wait, but I lost the question.
that's okay. Because our businesses are so different, when you
Yeah.
have people coming to you, you could have
Yes.
5 different bookkeepers coming to you, but their
Yes.
businesses are different. So,
Correct.
yeah,
They're
how
serving
do you
different people.
exactly.
And they need to have, again, we go back to that clarity piece, right? Like, your purpose, your vision for what you want to do. Do you want to do one-on-one, or do you want to expand and grow and so there's different ways we do it and we strategize about it, right? But you have to have your vision. You have to be super clear as to
Mhm.
how you want that to look for you, and then you build your strategy.
Mhm.
Right. So
Yeah.
that's why the 6 pillars of business mastery are what they are, is because if we don't have that framework, it's going to be super, super hard to show up every day
Mhm.
and run our business, work on our business, implement. I also have another thing called the daily 7 habits of business success. Right. And there's specific 7 things that if you do those every day, but you can't do those until you have the framework, right? So it's just kind of putting the puzzle pieces together to build
Mhm.
my productivity funnel. So I hope that
And
answers your question.
absolutely. For those of us that are here though watching this, they're looking, say, okay, is Denise Perkins a good fit for me?
Yeah.
Um, Tell me about like at what point in
Hmm.
someone starting their business is like the ideal time for them to reach out to you? Is it, right at the beginning? Have they been in business a little while? Both? What do you think?
Honestly, probably been in business a little while.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's not necessarily, but the reason I say that is because you kind of get an idea of what more you want to do, right? Like, I mean, I'm a way different person 4 years ago than I am today in my business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I kind of look at it as like when I was in real estate, like I wouldn't have wanted to get in real estate as my very first job because I feel like you have to learn some stuff and
Yeah.
have an idea of where it is you want to go and what it is you want to do. And
Mm-hmm.
you don't necessarily have to have been doing it full time,
Mm-hmm.
your business as an entrepreneur or business owner full time for a really long time, but at least have had a bit of a track record, right? Like you could have been side hustling for a while. Now you're like, look, I'm going all in. I'm going to
Right.
hire Denise Productivity Boot Camp. I'm signing up.
Yeah.
And and I want to build this framework so that I can do it strategically, sustainably, like I can build it right.
Yeah.
So yeah, you kind of, it's those people that have been entrepreneurs for a long time and now they're like, okay, now I'm going to get serious.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's interesting because again, my business is only about 2.5 years old. And I really say I've kind of had three iterations just in that
Yeah,
time because,
totally.
you get out there as, I just kind of started as a freelancer. I knew I wanted to support other business owners. I love entrepreneurship. I
Mm-hmm.
probably romanticize it a little too much, but I think there's just something special about
I do
going
too.
against
It's okay. Sorry.
yeah, but I just think there's something I'm a little defiant, okay? And so I think I like it when I hear, you're going against the grain by going
Hmm.
and being an employee or an employer versus an employee and going in that direction. I lost my train of thought because I got all but I do, I romanticize that a little bit. But I knew I wanted to serve those kinds of people. I just didn't know exactly what service. And so I dug into my bag of tricks and all the things. And I will say I did not have great self-esteem at that point. And I was like, okay, well, this is one little service I can offer. So I started offering bookkeeping services. Turns out I hate bookkeeping. I knew that beforehand, but I was like, I know business owners need it. Every
Yep.
business needs it. So I was like, it would be easy sell,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Well, that was just as a disaster because it turns out if you're going to run a business, you should probably like what you're doing. Now, I think I'm a pretty smart person, but I didn't think of that. I didn't realize that
Right.
ahead of time.
Well, yep.
And so I
Goes back
had
to that
to,
whole purpose piece,
it
right?
does,
Like it's
it
like
does.
if you don't have a lot of conviction about it, like you can't sell any. I mean, like
Mm-mm,
my goal for my clients is that they don't feel like they ever have to sell anything, right? Like
right.
because you're talking about what you're
Because they,
passionate about, you could talk about it forever, and then someone's like, I just want to work with you. I don't need it because you're, and suddenly
because,
you've sold yourself and you
well,
didn't
and
actually have to.
it, no, and it took me a while to get there. So I knew pretty early on when I sat down and said, okay, I want to work for myself. What do I want to be? And I actually came up with this up on the wall behind me. I knew I wanted to create.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to teach and I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to serve because I'm a teacher. I was a teacher
Mm-hmm.
before I was a teacher and I'm still a teacher. And so I just didn't know exactly what that looked like. So it took me a little while to find my way, but I did it by putting myself out there, doing crap I didn't know how to do sometimes, with software sometimes that I didn't know how to do. It was just figuring it out. And, so if I can be of any service to anybody, I'm like, that's just taking messy action
Yes,
and then adjusting.
absolutely.
And so it wasn't until really last year, I was really doing tech VA services,
Uh-huh.
and um, I had a friend of mine was like, you could white label this software and then sell it and teach people how to use it. And so I've built an entire business so I can teach because
That's
that's what I
awesome.
wanted to do, and I just didn't have that clarity early on. So I can see that for someone that's like me that knows they want to have a business, they're just not sure how to
Mm-hmm.
go to the next step. Why talking to someone like you can help
Yeah.
them find that clarity. I just didn't. Was very fortunate to have some good coaches to kind of help me through that process.
Yeah.
it's such an important thing to do. And I think, a lot of people, all right, I'm going to be a little opinionated. All the whole bro marketing kind of thing that goes
Mm,
on out here, like
mhm,
you're going to make $1 million this weekend. That
mm-mm,
doesn't move me. Like,
mm-mm,
I want my work to be purposeful.
mhm.
I want to be of service. And I think we can create businesses without feeling icky.
Yeah,
I love what you said about the sales thing.
yeah,
Because when you run your own business, you have to sell. And I have to say, that was the single most scary thing
absolutely.
for me.
Absolutely.
I
It
say that all the
is.
time. Like, I'm not a salesperson, I'm a teacher. And so, but there's a little bit of that identity. We could get into a whole therapy
Oh, I
session about
know. We could
that.
have
I'm
a whole
sorry.
conversation about selling. I do. That was one iteration of my coaching business, by the way.
Yeah, and I'm sure. I'm such an important. And but in the productivity part of it, selling is a part of it, doing those daily activities. So when you're talking to your clients about, those 7 things they have to do every
Yeah,
day,
yeah,
I'm sure that selling and connecting with potential clients is part of that.
absolutely. I will tell you what they are.
Oh, I
They
love that.
are what do you do in the morning? How do you start your day, right? How do you show up?
Mhm.
How do you create value for your clients? Selling.
Mhm.
How am I in service for my clients?
Mhm.
Selling.
Mhm.
How am I getting visible?
Mhm.
Selling. How am I connecting?
Mhm.
Selling.
There
And
you
how
go.
do I create raving fans? And when you
Yeah.
do all of those things, you're creating
Mhm.
raving fans automatically.
Yeah. I love everything about that. Okay, first of all, because I think, this whole idea of creating business now is, I mean, you'd mentioned it earlier, we're putting ourselves out here.
Yeah.
Well, back in the brick and mortar days when you just hung a sign on the side of a building, I'm sorry, real estate agents in the 80s weren't doing this kind of things,
No.
right? Coaches and, business entrepreneurs weren't putting ourselves out here on video and
Yeah.
exposing ourselves. And so that's a whole added list of to-dos that business didn't used to
Right.
have.
Right.
And, as new entrepreneurs in this kind of environment, we have to be prepared to do some portion of that.
Right.
Or is there a way to run a business without exposing yourself the way that you and I are willing to do here on our podcast today?
Well, I mean, there's different ways to be visible, right? Like, I mean, and it could be as easy as connecting with your clients after you've, had a great session with them and calling them and seeing how they're doing. So,
Yeah.
am I speaking? Am I on podcasts? I mean, you don't have to be on lives or getting visible, going to a networking event, right?
Right.
So it's
Right.
just putting yourself out there. And my goal is so this is that list of daily 7 is how I work on my business. This is how
Hmm.
I'm building my business, right? It's not in businesses when you're making your money and you're on a coaching call or whatever.
Hmm.
And my goal is that that's what you do. It's
Hmm.
not an added list of to-dos. It is the list of to-dos.
Yeah.
And when you break it down and you're like, oh, okay, so I'm going to be in service to my clients today. Okay, so I'm going to be, following up with everyone and providing them, so whatever that looks like in your world,
Hmm.
it takes away that the guesswork of what I'm going to do today,
Yeah.
on a daily basis.
Well, and I think if they're doing those things where they are connecting, and I think this is an
So
easier way for me to look at it as sales, right?
yeah,
I mean, I know it's
agreed,
sales
100%.
and everybody has that kind of like ick factor around it, but
Yeah.
it really is about connecting
Hmm.
with the other person. I tell people all the time, like anybody could go buy software.
Hmm.
I'm not selling anything that's super proprietary, but my services and people that want
Yeah.
to work with me and my
Yes.
strategy sessions and how I help them get where they want to go and being able to connect with them
And
is,
you show them value. You
yeah.
are showing them the value of working with you, and what you give is your business, and that's amazing, right? Like now you're building raving fans because you're
Exactly.
connecting and you're providing value.
Yeah, and that falls right into my create, teach, serve.
Yep.
That is, I feel, I really do. I say that this all the time. I very much feel called to, create opportunities, create education, create all of these things, and teach. as I learn things, I'm going to turn around and teach it. And then,
That's awesome.
that being of service. It was really hard to walk away from the classroom because I felt so called to do that. And so
Sure.
I'm kind of recreating that
Absolutely.
purpose and that meaning. And I think we can do that in our businesses when we really just kind of listen to ourselves. And I love that you are helping people tap into their purpose and their vision. And, just what a refreshing way to present that. And
Yeah.
I just love that. So if people wanted to reach out to you, everybody's going to have links. I'm going to put her
Yeah.
links
Yeah.
everywhere. But what do they need to know? Like, how can they work with you? What are the different
Mhm.
ways? How can they reach you and those kinds of things?
So I mostly have a Facebook group, a free Facebook group where I do live trainings,
Mhm.
and kind of teach
Mhm.
productivity strategies and tips in there.
Mhm.
I have a group, program called Productivity Bootcamp, like I mentioned before. I'm
Mhm.
in the middle of one right now. It's a
Mhm.
7-week course. I have another one coming up at the end of October.
Mhm.
And then I also have an in-person retreat that I just announced today, as a matter of
On your live
fact.
this morning when you're talking
Yeah.
about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I just announced my in-person retreat, and I'm in the Seattle area. So if you want to travel to the left coast, Denise, we'd love to have you. Um, and we're so anyway, I've got that, and then I'm going to I think I'm going to do a virtual version of this retreat, because I've had a whole bunch of people just ask
Yeah.
me for that. And I'm like, I got to listen to what the people are saying.
Right.
So I love the in-person, because I'm like one of my core values is connection. And so
Mhm.
that's very important. So I'm super stoked to have an in-person thing. And what I'm teaching is building a plan for 2025. And I
Love
shouldn't just limit it to the 20 people that can come to see me
it.
live. I feel like that would just
Yeah.
be
I would
doing
love
a
to come.
disservice.
Right. Like, it would be a little bit of a commute for me from
Yes,
Virginia all the way up.
it would be a little far. It would be a
It
little
would.
far, but it'd be fun. We'd have fun.
Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind that we would. So as those things come up, as you have
Yeah.
more boot camps and live
Hmm.
things, if you're in the Daring CEO co-op Facebook group, feel free to please share those
Oh,
things,
I
because you
will.
never know
Okay,
what
thank
our
you.
members would want.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, that's what my group is for.
Awesome.
I can't teach all the things. I
Right?
want, I want to be able to, share you with them. So feel free to share
Thank you. I
those kind of
will. It's
things there
exciting.
So I will make sure everybody has your links. Denise, so good to talk to you.
It's
And
been awesome to
thank
talk to you
you
too.
for sharing a little bit about you and your business. And I just think, you know, I love business coaches. About half of my clients are coaches of some kind or other. I just think coaching and teaching are so
Yeah. Super.
related. So I love that you're here and to share that. And yeah, thank you so much for coming
Thank
and spending this little
you.
time today. I
Absolutely.
appreciate
Happy to. I'm thrilled. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity, and I too have a huge affinity for entrepreneurs, and like it just like gets me very excited. So
it. Yeah.
come share your ideas. I want to learn more.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, thank
Awesome.
you so much for spending time with us today. I really appreciate you.
Yeah. Thank you. Talk to you later.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Daring CEO Co-op podcast. If you'd like to have more support and join our community, we'd love to have you. You can reach us by going to daringceo.com. There you're going to find a link for our free Facebook community. And if you'd like to be a podcast member, there will be a link for that as well. Thank you for spending this time with us. Now, go be daring.